Welcome to Reform Thinking.
Glad to be here for this.
So we live in this era of Amazon Prime character development.
Oh, that is a great way to put it.
Right. Because think about it. You want a habit changed. There is an app for that.
Yeah, just download it.
Yeah, you want spiritual growth. Just, I don't know, download a 5-day devotional, check the little boxes, and just wait for the results to roll in.
2-day shipping on sanctification.
Spot on. We expect this vending machine experience in literally every facet of our existence. You put in your time, you push a button, and the solution just arrives at your doorstep by the next morning.
But that is really not how reality works, is it?
No, it isn't. And that is what we are looking at today. What happens when you collide with a God who operates on the agonizing, just unyielding timeline of an oak tree?
It's a harsh collision for most of us.
It really is. So we are taking a hard look at Charles Spurgeon's classic message today. It's called A Visit to the Harvest Field.
A fantastic text.
And the mission for this deep dive into the source material is to really unpack this agricultural metaphor. We want to understand the nature of spiritual patience, hard labor, and the absolute sovereignty of God in producing a harvest in your life.
Right, because the friction really begins the moment we step off the concrete and into the dirt.
I mean, we are so removed from agriculture now.
We really are. But to get this, we have to establish the premise that the author of the Bible is also the architect of the universe.
Oh, I like that.
The hands that crafted the laws of agriculture are the very same hands that crafted the laws of spiritual reality.
So they mirror each other.
Precisely.
Right.
Spurgeon points out that God ordained seed time and harvest to teach us through fixed, reliable laws.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit.
Yeah, so the earth yielding seed to the sower and bread to the eater, it has a constitution governed by divine providence. When you study the soil, you are actually studying the mind of God.
Wow.
You're studying how he interacts with his people. The universe operates on covenantal laws.
Meaning like cause and effect.
Yes, meaning there's a binding relationship between cause and effect established by the Creator himself.
So the physical dirt is an actual classroom for us.
That's a good way to look at it, yeah.
So let's look at the very first lesson of that classroom. It's this concept of having a realistic expectation of what you are actually planting.
The source text definitely does not pull any punches here.
Not at all. It says the farmer's hope for a crop is reasonable entirely because he actually plowed the field and sowed the grain.
Right. If he left the fields fallow or, never stirred the clods, he'd be a fool to look for a wheat harvest.
Thorns and thistles would be his only return. Yet, we see people making this miscalculation constantly.
What's fascinating here is how the text notes that if a farmer cast garlic into the dirt, he would be absolutely foolish to look for a wheat harvest.
Obviously, you plant garlic, you get garlic.
Right, we have to examine the mechanics of why this happens. In an agrarian society, the audience understood the unforgiving nature of seeds.
The soil is basically an impartial judge.
Spot on. It does not care about your intentions. It only responds to the physical seed introduced into it.
So Spurgeon is drawing a sharp line here between genuine spiritual investment and just like the delusion of expecting unearned grace.
Yes, he quotes the scripture noting that the one who sows to the flesh shall reap corruption, while sowing to the Spirit yields everlasting life. Action and consequence are tied together by divine design.
You cannot cheat the dirt.
You really can't.
I see people treating their spiritual lives like a cryptocurrency scam.
Oh, how so?
Well, you know the exact mindset. They want to get massively wealthy overnight with zero actual investment and zero fundamental value created.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, they want the massive payout without ever touching a plow. They live for their own passions, scatter the wild oats of sin.
Right, indulging every fleshly desire.
Yeah, and then somehow they assume everything will be fine for them in the end. They expect massive spiritual dividends from a completely fleshly portfolio.
That psychological blindness is really fascinating to dissect.
It's terrifying, honestly.
It is. Men and women expect something good to turn up in spiritual matters, while they actively neglect the things that make for their peace.
They say they hope it will be well with them at the end.
But since they are living in rebellion right now, why should they expect a sudden magical change that runs contrary to the entire order of providence?
Yeah, the man who scatters nothing reaps nothing.
A man who sows to the wind reaps the whirlwind. We want the agricultural laws suspended for our personal convenience.
We assume God will alter the fabric of reality just to spare us the consequences of our own sowing.
Which is an incredibly arrogant position to take.
It sounds totally absurd when you put it in farming terms. Nobody walks out to a field of thistles and expects to harvest corn.
No one in their right mind.
But we do this in our daily routines without a second thought. We feed our minds with absolute garbage on the internet. We neglect prayer. We ignore our families.
And then we are shocked when our lives fall apart.
Right. Or we feel completely alienated from God. We get angry at the sky for not raining down blessings on a field we deliberately filled with weeds.
The true believer understands the absolute necessity of the seed.
Mm.
They sow abundantly, even if they go forth weeping, knowing they shall come again rejoicing.
Bringing their sheaves with them.
Yes, they accept the reality of the soil. But, accepting the reality of the soil brings us to the next severe challenge.
The waiting.
Right. Even when you do everything right, the time frame of agriculture is unyielding.
This brings us to the agonizing timeline of the soil. The farmer has what the text calls long patience.
Long patience.
Yeah. He does not sow in the winter and expect to take his sickle out in May. And here's where my modern brain starts to short circuit.
Okay.
I want 2-day shipping on character development. If I pray for patience on Tuesday, I expect to be a completely zen, unbothered person by Thursday morning.
Well, God does not utilize 2-day shipping.
Clearly not.
The moons must wax and wane. Suns must rise and set. Truth takes its leisure.
The text compares it to a grain of mustard seed, right? Or leaven in the dough.
Yes, it does not work in the next moment. The sufferer must wait for the peaceable fruits of righteousness. And this waiting extracts a massive psychological toll.
Oh, for sure.
The source notes that impatience sours the temper, chills the blood, and sickens the heart.
It's physical. When we look at the biology of stress, we know that prolonged anticipation without resolution actually spikes their cortisol levels.
We are literally sickening ourselves because we refuse to submit to the divine timeline.
I want to push back on this idea of waiting, though.
Okay, let's hear it.
Let's say I am sharing the gospel with a friend, or I am praying for a specific outcome and I'm getting 0 results. Year after year, nothing happens.
Very common scenario.
Right. So at what point does patient waiting just become a stubborn refusal to admit I'm using a broken strategy? Am I exercising the long patience of the farmer, or am I just wasting my time staring at a patch of dead dirt?
That is the critical tension. We have to differentiate between the method and the material.
Yeah.
The sources detail a specific command to the worker to repeat their efforts despite rejection. If you go to a sinner once on Christ's errand, and he rejects you, you are commanded to go again 7 times.
Nay, 70 times 7.
Precisely. Think about the theological weight of outlasting a hardened heart through sheer, persistent patience.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
It is, but you are trusting that the seed of the gospel, though buried in hostile soil, possesses a divine vitality that will eventually sprout.
So if you are preaching the true gospel, you are planting the right seed.
Yes. The lack of immediate response is not an indictment of the seed, it is a reflection of the season.
So the issue is not that the seed is defective. The issue is that winter lasts a lot longer than I want it to.
Spot on. The text explicitly tells the worker to hush their sad complaints and still their petulant wailings.
Ouch.
Right. Do not fret because of the nipping frosts. Truth is mighty, and it will prevail.
The long, tedious winter of waiting will seem like a short span when you look back from the perspective of the harvest.
We must stop evaluating the efficacy of the Word of God based on the immediate emotional response of the hearer.
That is huge. But, the waiting is not just sitting around looking at a clock. As the sources point out, the process begins with a visceral, tangible loss.
It does.
This brings us to the paradox of the buried grain. The first action a farmer takes to gain a crop looks to the untrained eye like a total loss.
It is a striking economic reality that we often gloss over.
Yeah, unpack that for me.
Well, the farmer has good edible wheat in his granary. He could use it to feed his household right now. He could bake bread today.
Have a feast.
Right. Instead, he takes sacks full of this precious food, carries it out into the weather, and buries it in the dirt.
It goes under the clod, and there it must die.
This means there is less bread on the table today. He is deliberately making himself poorer in the short term.
Think about that action in modern terms. Here's where it gets really interesting. It is like taking your entire life savings in cash, putting it in a metal box, and burying it in your backyard.
Trusting a seemingly crazy map that promises it will multiply in 10 years.
Yes, that runs completely counter to the modern prosperity mindset that dominates so much of popular religion today.
Oh, absolutely.
We are told that faith should result in an immediate upgrade to our standard of living.
But the agricultural metaphor eviscerates prosperity theology. True religion might cost you comfort, ease, relatives, or life itself.
The text offers a severe critique of transactional religion here, doesn't it?
It does. If you follow faith for the loaves and fishes, you will abandon that faith the second you have eaten your fill.
Or the moment a better bargain comes along.
Exactly. I mean, precisely. There's nothing in such piety but pretension. If your loyalty can be bought by comfort, it can be sold to the highest bidder when the comfort runs out.
If you have taken it up for game, you will lay it down for what promises you a better bargain. That is a terrifying diagnostic question for anyone claiming to be a believer.
What good wheat am I terrified to bury?
Yeah, what comforts are you and I hoarding in the granary instead of planting in the field? We hold on to our reputation, our leisure time, our financial security.
Because burying those things feels like actual death.
Right, because it is death. Except a corn of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abides alone.
True faith requires giving up the immediate for the eternal. The farmer expects to be a loser for a while.
He does not expect immediate reward.
No. He waits for the precious fruit of the earth,
Yeah.
and it is a reasonable waiting, knowing the character of the God who designed the process.
The preservation of the seed requires its destruction.
If you hoard the grain in the granary, it will eventually rot or be eaten by rats.
So by refusing to lose it, you ensure its absolute destruction.
And by burying it, you ensure its multiplication.
Wow. Okay, so once that seed is buried, the farmer faces the reality that he is no longer in control of the elements. He has done his part. He has sacrificed his grain.
And now he is utterly helpless.
The sources describe this as waiting with the eye upward, facing the threat of brass skies and iron clods.
The text notes that the harvest depends on the early and latter rain.
Which the farmer absolutely cannot control.
Not at all. If the skies are brass, the clods will be iron. Unless God speaks to the clouds and the clouds speak to the earth will not speak to the corn.
Plowing and sowing are useless unless God sends his spirit like heavenly rain.
We see the absolute reliance on God's sovereign provision here. Human effort, no matter how rigorous, cannot force the seed to sprout.
The keys to the rain clouds hang at the girdle of Jehovah.
None but the Eternal Father can send the Holy Spirit like showers on the church. All labor is in vain without this covenant blessing.
You know, I grew up around sailboats, and this feels like the perfect parallel.
Oh, how so?
Well, you can rig the ship, you can tie the knots flawlessly, you can polish the deck and hoist the sails with absolute mechanical precision.
Right.
But you cannot make the wind blow. You are entirely at the mercy of the sky. You just have to be ready with your sails up when the wind finally decides to move.
The sailor cannot manufacture the wind, and the farmer cannot manufacture the rain.
It strips away all human pride.
We cannot claim credit for the rain. We must have the dew from God, or else our seed shall rot under the clod.
Our expectation will perish like a stillborn child. We must wait with our eye upward.
Think about the crushing anxiety that comes from trying to manufacture spiritual results on our own.
We try so hard to force the wind to blow. We see this in modern church culture constantly.
Oh, everywhere.
We create these highly engineered emotional atmospheres. We use marketing tactics, dim the lights, swell the music,
Manipulate the environment.
all to force a harvest.
Yeah.
We are trying to build artificial rain machines because we are terrified the real rain might not come.
The artificial rain machine might produce a temporary emotional response, but it will never produce a crop that survives the winter.
When we realize we only control the sowing and not the raining, it should produce a massive sense of freedom.
But it also demands a posture of humility. We are forced to admit our own limitations.
Wait, I need to push back on this entirely.
All right, go for it.
If God holds the keys to the rain clouds and God controls the sun, and the outcome is entirely dependent on his sovereign will, isn't the most logical response just complete spiritual fatalism?
Ah, I see where you're going.
Like, why should I exhaust myself out in the field pulling weeds if the harvest is completely out of my hands? I should just sit on my porch, drink iced tea, and wait for God to do the work.
That is the perpetual misunderstanding of divine sovereignty.
How so?
It leads directly to the concept of being what Spurgeon calls gloriously active nothings.
I love that phrase.
While looking upward, the farmer's hands are intensely at work. He does not wait in sluggishness.
Right. When the green blade appears, the weeds appear with it.
Those weeds must not be suffered to outgrow the wheat and choke it. The farmer must go up and down the field. His skill must be taxed, and no drudgery must be disdained.
So God utilizes means to accomplish his ends.
Yes, the sovereign decree of the harvest includes the sovereign decree of the labor required to bring it about.
I cannot get over that phrase, gloriously active nothings. It is such a brilliant paradox. We are nothing compared to the sovereign power of God, yet we are gloriously active in his design.
It really captures the
It
balance.
makes me think of a toddler helping a parent build a house.
Okay, I like this.
The parent is the architect, the financier, and the master builder. The parent provides all the materials and does all the heavy lifting,
Naturally.
but the parent hands the toddler a little plastic hammer and says, "Help me build." The toddler's involvement is required not because the parent lacks strength, but because of the parent's loving design to include the child in the work.
That is a highly accurate illustration of the relationship between divine grace and human effort. The Christian must work as if all depends on him, and pray as if all depends on God.
He is nothing in his own estimation.
Yet God treats the things that are not as though they were, and gets glory out of them. The text outlines the rigorous maintenance required in a believer's life.
We are talking about spending solitary hours seeking in prayer and searching the Word.
The eye that looks up to God must be attended with the hand that is ready for work. God will not accept the look of a sluggard.
So the fatalist who sits on the porch waiting for God to do everything is actually living in rebellion.
They are. You are called to the field. You have to keep your lamps trimmed and burning.
Correct. But even with perfect theology, hard work, and complete reliance on God, the middle of the growing season brings terrifying, unpredictable weather.
The farmer waits under changeful circumstances. He constantly fears the weather. Is it too hot? Is it too cold? Too dry? Too wet?
The text says he is full of changes in his mind because the season is full of changes. He fancies there is a blight or a black smut creeping into the wheat.
We can all relate to the fear of the black smut.
We look at the cultural weather around us and we panic. We doom scroll the news, obsessing over the daily forecast of cultural decay.
We see temporary shifts in the political landscape or scandals in the church, and we assume the sky is falling.
We obsess over the weather instead of trusting the soil.
The anxiety of the spiritual worker is immense. The sources draw a direct parallel between the farmer's fears and the fears within the church.
Yeah, the worker sees initial conversions that seem promising, but they produce no fruit.
They witness massive backsliding among people they thought were solid.
They watch the black smut of deadly heresy creep into their congregation.
The anxious worker fears there will be no harvest after all. Spurgeon says, 10,000 farmers' fears have been disappointed this year.
We fret, we murmur, we worry that the blight has ruined everything. Why do we have such a hard time trusting the master of the harvest to handle the weather?
Because we lack the historical perspective of the covenant.
Ooh, say more about that.
We evaluate the success of the church based on a 5-year window instead of a 500-year window.
Oh, spot on.
The text points out how often believers murmur and fret over the state of the church, only to look at last upon the well-filled ear and the heavy wheat sheaf.
When God gives a rich return for the labor, the worker blushes to think they ever doubted.
They are shamed they ever grew weary. The master of the harvest maintains long-term stability despite the chaotic fluctuations of any given season.
So that anxiety, the sweat, the fear of the black smut, it is only tolerable if the payoff is genuine.
Yes, we have to examine what exactly the farmer is hoping to reap. The source says he's waiting for real, right, and bountiful results.
Real results, not fake metrics.
The text specifically calls out the 19th century newspaper reports of 51 conversions of an evening.
Even back then, they were inflating numbers.
Oh, absolutely. The true worker is not looking for superficial, immediate metrics manufactured to look good on paper. They are looking for ripe fruits for Jesus, seen in the growth and advance of those who are truly converted.
A manufactured revival that produces no lasting sanctification is like a farmer painting his dead stalks green to impress the neighbors.
That's a sad but very accurate picture.
We are entirely consumed by data and metrics today. We want to count heads, track engagement, monitor the analytics, and publish reports showing how successful our efforts are.
We want the applause of the industry.
But the farmer knows his real reward comes at the very end. The source notes that the lounger always criticizes the laborer.
The psychology of the spectator versus the participant is a major theme in the text. Pure motives are almost always misrepresented by onlookers.
The less a man does, the less he is open to rebuke.
And the more he does, and the more vigorously he works, the more he shall be upbraided.
If you seek the praise of men, what is it actually worth?
It would not fill your nostrils if you were about to die. It provides no actual sustenance.
It is the exact dynamic of the internet troll.
Yes.
You have people who are out in the world, actively building things, planting seeds, sweating in the field, and then you have the anonymous lounger.
Sitting on the sidelines behind a keyboard.
doing absolutely nothing but criticizing the technique of the laborer. The loudest criticisms always come from those doing the least amount of work.
Therefore, the worker must contrast the fleeting applause of men with the permanent approbation of God.
The reward is the master saying, "Well done, good and faithful servant."
God gives rewards out of his abundant grace, not as a strict debt. We wait until the week is over, and then comes the wage.
We wait until the sun goes down, and then there will be the penny for every laborer in the vineyard.
You must insulate yourself from the critique of the lounger by focusing entirely on the coming evaluation of the master.
So if the applause of men means nothing and the work is exhausting, we have to talk about the true encouragement to keep going.
It is the sheer, unadulterated value of the crop itself.
The text cites a man named Mr. Richard Nill, and his perspective completely flipped my understanding of return on investment.
What did he say?
He said that if there were one unconverted person in Siberia, and it required all the Christians in the world making a journey there to save him, it would be worth all the trouble.
We really must consider the infinite value of a single human soul.
The theology behind this is entirely countercultural.
In the modern world, we calculate effort based on mass returns. We want thousands saved for a small amount of effort. We want maximum efficiency.
But heaven calculates based on the infinite worth of one soul, rescued from eternal judgment.
A single soul brought to salvation justifies the entire enterprise of the global church.
Let's examine the friction there, though.
Okay.
From a purely administrative standpoint, sending millions of people to Siberia to save one guy sounds like terrible resource management.
By human standards, sure.
It is like launching a multi-billion-dollar global rescue operation, pulling military resources, satellites, and manpower from every nation on Earth, just to save one single-stranded hiker freezing in the snow.
Our modern metrics would say that is wildly inefficient.
Right.
It is inefficient if you view the human soul as a temporary biological phenomenon. But if you view the soul as an eternal entity destined for either everlasting joy or everlasting torment, the math changes completely.
God's metrics dictate that the soul is precious.
Furthermore, this harvest is guaranteed by the theological bedrock of the believer's confidence. God is a covenant God.
He promised that seed time and harvest, summer and winter, shall not cease.
Because heaven and earth will pass away, but his word will not. The believer's faith cannot be confounded.
We also have the immense cloud of witnesses, right?
Ancestors, apostles, and confessors who planted seeds in total darkness.
Trusting the exact same covenant promises we rely on today, and who reaped the blessing.
With such an incredible prize on the line, the guaranteed covenant promises and the historical track record of the cloud of witnesses cheering us on, our human instinct is to rush the process.
We want to speed up the harvest.
But the sources give a severe warning against impatience.
The text highlights the absolute futility of impatience. Let's look at the mechanical reality of it. The farmer cannot yell at the clouds to make it rain.
A mother's petulance does not calm a crying child. Impatience does nothing but cause destruction.
It casts Satan out of heaven because he was impatient at being a servant to his maker.
It caused Cain to kill Abel.
There is a story in the text about Mr. Hill and the swearing captain on a vessel that perfectly illustrates this.
Oh, I love that story.
Mr. Hill hears the mate swear, then the captain swears. Mr. Hill steps in and says, "Let us be fair, let us take turns. My turn to swear is next."
The captain is shocked, thinking this good man will not actually swear.
And Mr. Hill says, "I mean to swear as soon as ever I can see the good of it."
It is a humorous interaction, but it contains a piercing observation. We should be impatient only as soon as we can see the practical use it will serve.
Which is never.
Exactly. Yes, never. The destructive nature of impatience leads to hasty, foolish decisions. Ministers get discouraged because they do not see immediate fruit, and they leave their pulpits prematurely.
People get touchy, angry, abandon their local congregations, head out into the wilderness of isolation.
And regret leaving the fat pastures behind them for the rest of their lives.
Impatience is exactly like laying on your horn in a completely deadlocked traffic jam.
That's a great analogy.
It does not move a single car. It does not clear the accident ahead. It just spikes your blood pressure, deafens your ears, and makes everyone around you miserable.
You are burning massive amounts of energy to accomplish absolutely nothing.
The text references John Bunyan's parable of passion and patience to drive this point home.
Passion wanted all his best things first, so he received them immediately.
He lavished them, consumed them, and used up all his joy in a brief moment.
While patience sat and waited, When passion had nothing left, patience received his portion. And as Bunyan remarked, there is nothing to come after the last, so the portion of patience lasted forever.
The true believer has the grace to wait, wanting the best things last, knowing those things will last for eternity.
How many blessings have we aborted because we pulled the plant out of the ground just to see if the roots were growing?
We refuse to let patience finish her work. But there's one specific season where patience is tested the most severely, and it happens right at the very end of the line.
The text points to Hebrews chapter 10, verses 35 and 36, which says, "We have need of patience after we have done the will of God."
This is a crucial psychological insight into the human condition. We're never so subject to impatience as when there is nothing left we can actively do.
While the farmer is plowing, tilling, and hoeing, his muscles are burning, and he's too busy to be fretful.
The physical exertion distracts the mind.
But when the active work is finished and he just has to watch the sky, the sudden leisure gives occasion to secret qualms and lurking cares.
The hardest wait is always when your hands are empty.
The source uses a striking physiological metaphor about mature wheat to explain this final, terrifying waiting period.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the description of the sun-painted wheat is a masterful illustration of sanctification and dying.
As the wheat matures, a fascinating biological shift occurs. The hollow stems stop drawing nourishment from the soil below.
The vital powers fail.
The fibers become rigid. The stalk literally dies from the bottom up.
Having fed on the riches of the soil long enough, the grain is now only influenced from above.
The sun paints its superscription on the ears of grain, ripening it for the sickle.
The wheat stalk has to die from the bottom up in order to be ripened by the sun. It stops pulling nutrients from the dirt. It is a beautiful, severe concept.
It really is.
It reminds me of a space capsule detaching from its massive booster rockets.
Ah,
For a
right.
long time, you needed those boosters. You needed the fire, the fuel, and the massive weight from the Earth to push you upward into the atmosphere.
But eventually, those earthly attachments fall away, dead and useless, because they are no longer required for the final phase of the ascent into the heavens.
Continuing to hold on to them would actually drag the capsule back down.
Spurgeon applies this biological and mechanical reality directly to the aging Christian. The believer experiences a final detachment from earthly things.
They stop drawing their satisfaction, their identity, and their nourishment from the earth.
They are only influenced from above. Physical decline, the failing of vital powers, the loss of mobility or influence, these things are accepted not as a tragedy, but as a necessary precursor to eternal harvesting.
The heavenly powers work quick and marvelous changes in the soul, and the Son of Righteousness inscribes holiness on them. They are ready for the sickle.
This runs completely contrary to a culture that is utterly terrified of aging and finality.
We spend billions of dollars trying to artificially pump nutrients back into the dead stalk.
We try to look young, we try to stay relevant, we try to cling to the dirt with everything we have.
But true maturation is learning to stop pulling from the earth and yielding to the sun.
The culmination is a soul perfectly resigned to the will of the Lord, ready to depart and be with Christ, which is far better.
Patience has had her perfect work.
The believer lacks nothing, waiting only for the heavenly husbandman to say, "Put in your sickle."
That brings us to the final moments in the field, and we have to address the sobering reality for those who refuse to plant. The source closes with a stark, chilling observation.
The unbeliever cannot wait with patience because they have absolutely nothing to wait for.
There is no crop coming. If you have not sown to the Spirit, you cannot expect a spiritual harvest.
The text is unambiguous on this point. For the unbeliever, there is only a fearful looking for of judgment.
It makes all earthly wealth, joy, poverty, or suffering totally irrelevant in the end.
If you are driven from the Lord's presence, the temporary comforts you hoarded in the greenery will mean absolutely nothing.
The safety, the pardon, the salvation is found only in resting in the finished work of Jesus.
So we synthesize all of this.
You are currently standing in a field. You're holding seeds in your hands. You are making choices every single day about where you scatter those seeds.
Are you throwing garlic into the dirt, expecting wheat?
Are you hoarding your grain in the granary, terrified of the short-term loss?
We must look up to the sovereign Lord of the harvest. We must rely entirely on his covenant promises and the life-giving rain of his Spirit.
But simultaneously, we must keep our hands dirty in the soil of daily obedience.
We must be gloriously active nothings, pulling the weeds, wading through the long winter, and trusting that the Master will return with his sickle in his perfect time.
It requires a massive reorientation of how we view our daily labor, our anxieties, and our ultimate hope.
It really does change everything.
As we wrap up this deep dive into the source material, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over on your own.
Let's hear it.
If the specific seeds planted in the soil of your life today dictate the exact nature of your eternal harvest, what invisible seeds are you unknowingly watering right now through your daily habits?
A question that demands an honest assessment of the field.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the source material. We will see you next time on Reformed Thinking.